Welcome back to the Warcraft news, everybody. There's a lot going on. It's actually an exciting time. I'll kick it off with Blizzcon, which is next week, and I'm happy to say I'll actually be there, so be able to meet some of you. That'll be really cool. And I'll be trying to find out all that I can. Well, of course, my team back here in Ireland and Wales will be getting the content out. My hotel is actually super close to the con, so I'll be able to record loads of stuff for you. I'll be able to bring your questions to the devs, and a lovely change is that this time all of the streams are free, right? So previously you could only watch the opening ceremony for free. Anything else would need a virtual ticket. There is no virtual ticket. You can watch them for free. So whenever the WoW deep dive panel is out, everybody can enjoy that regardless of having to spend money, which is so much better. And I mean, come on, you're Blizzard. You really don't want to be paywalling your good news, because if you do have good news, you need people to be able to see it. So that'll all be going down November 3rd, where we'll learn what's next for Classic, what our next WoW expansion is, and of course we'll see the return of Chris Metzen as a full-time Blizzard employee. He'll be taking the stage at BlizzCon and announcing the things in really the sort of only way that he can. At the end of the day, he was very instrumental in the creation and the molding of this IP, and he does bring a level of thunder to the stage that can get people excited. Of course, the big question is, will they have the goods to back that up? To be honest with you, while I do think Dragonflight has had some misses in terms of content cadence, in terms of like the amount of class changes, stuff like that, I actually think Dragonflight has definitely been on the uptrend as compared to, say, the Shadowlands. So hey, if that uptrend continues, I think we'll be in a really damn good spot. As will you if you check out today's sponsor, Squarespace.com/Bellular Gaming. Last time I told you about their bio sites feature, Fluid Engine and Blueprint, and how those make building your web presence easier than ever, but it's actually not the end of what Squarespace are doing. They also help you run your business. They of course have fantastic email newsletter tools that can handle your digital and physical e-commerce, but that's actually not all. Squarespace Memberships lets you do free and paid memberships, and they've got a new courses tool that will let you turn your knowledge into income. The user experience for all of this is just awesome as well. And they have other great features. As an example, their appointments and invoicing tools also help you run your business. So let's say you're a photographer, you're yoga, massage, you're physical, you're digital, or you're a mix. Squarespace has got the tools to help you stay on top of your business. I've been super impressed with their product cycle in 2023. They are shipping loads of great product launches, and with Squarespace payments rolling out, that pace is keeping real strong. So be it a simple portfolio site to show off your work to potential employers, a link in bio, or perhaps your business, Squarespace is there to help. Build your site for free today, and when you're ready to launch, send it live with code Bellular Gaming for 10% off. Okay, I've got a quick update since the main episode was recorded, and that is that a new build of World of Warcraft, build 10.2.5, has actually hit Blizzard's vendor server. What this means basically is we can't access it, but we know it's there. This is essentially what happens before something is available to be tested on the PTR. What that broadly means then is pretty much right after BlizzCon, 10.2.5 is going to be on the PTR, and we'll be able to test it. The big question then is, will that be some sort of last minute nice thing before Christmas? I suppose that means the big question then is, will we get to play this patch on live before the Christmas holidays, or will this be something for early 2024? No idea, but what I'm keen to know is the narrative side of things, and that's because, well, Farak will be dead, Iridikron will be at the other side of his big void hole, so we don't know what's going to go on there. And Tyr, of course, Tyr will be sort of back, right? We're going to go to Suramar, we're going to get his memory disk from like back in the past, we're going to jam it in his new body, and then he's going to spill all the beans. So that means it'll probably be directly bridging us into the next story of Warcraft, which is whatever the hell we're going to hear in a few days at BlizzCon. Perhaps I'll see you there. Leaks then. A big leak came out, and it's a very believable one. WoW have actually covered it. It's pretty much out there everywhere right now. And essentially it's this, which is 4 frames, supposedly, from the gameplay trailer of an expansion that will be taking us to Avalorn, which is that new continent that, yeah, I've probably talked about perhaps too many times in recent videos. TLDR, right? A group of people that Odin thought were kind of like mean heretics. They lived there. This is all many, many, many thousands of years ago. It looks like it was like locked off behind something named the Storming Sea. You can check out this video for the full lore breakdown. It's actually quite neat, all of that lore. So what we see here is 4 zones. We've got some ice, some desert, some jungle, and some of a misty forest. Essentially, these are all like stripped from the narrative, though, from the fantasy of the new expansion, from whatever its lore impetus is. And I think that does mean that they look kind of a bit, okay or underwhelming. That said, they're just random screenshots of zones, and an expansion is a hell of a lot more than what 4 screenshots can tell us, so I'm not really going to overly index on that. And you might be wondering, what's the blue dude? I don't know, is that maybe a dwarf-like creature from Khazalgar? Is it maybe in the same lineage as perhaps the Vrykul or the Jaredine? Because there's a few interesting threads that could be pulled from the Dragon Isles over there. As an example, there's an old Vrykul shipwreck that you can find on the Waking Shore. Okay, let's talk about, veracity, though. Is this real? I'll tell you what, if this is fake, this is an incredibly good fake. This is one of the more high-effort ones that we've seen, truly. Now, number one, there's no way that an AI will wholesale generate something like this. DALL-E 3 and Midjourney just can't really achieve that level of what they call coherence that you really see here. Now, could you harness some of those tools to make, textures and that sort of thing? Yes, you could, and you could composite those in. But speaking of the compositing, at least at this resolution, it's damn good. This actually does look like the World of Warcraft render pipeline. It does look like an in-game screenshot. Now, if you look closely enough, you can maybe see 1 or 2 things that aren't perfect, right? Some shadow oddness, but then again, if this is actually real, then, because we're probably a year from launch, these zones wouldn't be complete. So that kind of thing is actually not unexpected. Looking at some of the assets then, we do see there are a few seemingly new things, like this griffin statue, which is different from the one at Airy Peak, and would kind of line up with the Khazalgar Storm Rider stuff. And what's also interesting is that this lines up with the website Snapchat leak that basically has this rock fella from Agarond, I think it's called. Basically, right, look at this image, look way at the back, you can see this dude fighting a harpy in the distance. That dude is the same one as in this website screenshot. So, supposed website screenshot, but taken by somebody using Snapchat. I guess because that's just how leaks happen. So this could obviously just be the same person, dropping little breadcrumbs here and there, trying to craft together a whole thing. And if they're doing that, they're certainly doing a pretty damn magnificent job. But yeah, I think for a lot of people, that one does make it look fairly real. Anyway, if these are leaks, they are incredibly, incredibly good leaks. Now, some people have done things like breaking down the assets. Zellerin, who has found loads of asset reuse, been breaking that down on Twitter. A few of the other data mining folks have been as well. But even with that, there's broad consensus that if this is a leak, yes, it is incredibly done. Now, you might be wondering, how is this done? Well, it could be done by somebody in Blender, right, doing a bunch of custom stuff, or they could be doing some interesting things with a local client and then touching it up in post, which, while that does sound like a super hard to do thing, it is eminently doable by those people who are in the know. And you could then say that if there are any artifacts of this kind of being created by somebody, that those could be somewhat hidden by the low resolution. Of course, we will know for sure in a week, so I'm going to just leave it at that. I suppose, drop a comment. Do you think this is true, or do you think it's false? A Crown of Flame. This is a pretty neat cinematic. And a while back, Matt and I, right, we talked about how we think, based on a lot of WoW's very successful trailers and cinematics. Think Warlords of Draenor, Wrath of the Lich King, Legion, the patch 5.4 trailer. That thing was so good. And one of the best ways to just inject the feeling of Warcraft into someone's arm is a gruff voiceover from a villain who really, really wants to kill you. And funnily enough, this new cinematic, A Crown of Flame, is doing exactly that. It's setting up patch 10.2. Of course, Matt Mercer's portrayal of Farak is perfect. We have cool throat dude music, which is very ominous. And somehow, right, we're able to just have our villain repeat just how pissed off he is at everybody for 2 minutes and have it work. Because it turns out, if something could be cringe, you could step away from it, or you could just double down and double down and double down. And I think that's what Farak is as a character. Overall then, I think this does a fairly good job of building up that tension. We see the characters that we know kind of getting ready for war, right? Getting ready for something bad that's coming, rather than what we've got a lot of, which is just shot, reverse shot, talking about feelings. Yeah, I get what these people feel, but also they're supposed to be really powerful, capable characters. I want to see them get ready to, do the stuff they do best. And also, hey, we do have the star of the show, Tyronda's back muscles. All right, lore analysis time. Farak is very much his own dragon. He says, "My brother thought he could control me." And that's a kind of funny yes or no thing, because Farak is obviously a total crackpot maniac. Iridikron knows that he's just going to go and do crackpot maniac shit. Clearly then, Iridikron's plan is to use Farak. Now, Farak may think that he's in full control, but really him just going absolutely mental, that's all that Iridikron really needs. He just needs Farak to be a bit of a big distraction, right? Go for the tree, buy Iridikron time to do big evil Iridikron things, and from the perspective of Farak, Farak is kind of broken free to be his own angry dude. Also, note that, you might think he's fully in control, but the Shadow Flame's corrupting influence, the color purple, is there, right? Now, that Shadow Flame is very, very powerful. It does corrupt, though. It's, Deathwing, right? Deathwing and all that. Now, Shadow Flame is, of course, connected to the Void as well. Then I would have you think about all that business that we did with Sarkareth and the Echo of Neltharion in Aberrus, where, of course, the Echo of Neltharion just turned out to be a faceless one. Now, Iridikron has obviously struck some sort of deal with Xal'atath. Xal'atath is a Void-aligned creature that we think may even be the sort of remnants of a fifth Old God, perhaps, based on some cool lore that's been floating around since Legion. So that means that while, this Void doesn't let Iridikron mind control Farak or, anything that would be terrible like that, it does, I think, mean that, Iridikron knows what's up. And of course, as for Farak, it turns out that if you throw somebody in solitary for a few tens of thousands of years, they will come out just a little bit cracked in the head. Now, how does an axe cleave a rift between the Firelands and the Emerald Dream? It does. That's the answer. To be a bit more realistic, the Druids are clearly imbuing it with Firelandsy stuff as it is being forged by these Jaredine, so it's got that deep primal energy. There's also a whole bunch of Firelands runes. Don't worry, I know, you see runes, you might think, oh no, it's Zoval's plan. Don't worry, I don't think the Chuckler is involved in this one. Now, going to the big picture, this is just the energy that I think is cool, that is fun, that is what Warcraft needs to be. And if the Black Dragon Succession plotline, if that was the B plot of patch 10.1, and instead the A plot of 10.1 had us focused on frantically defending the world from this turbocharged Shadow Flame Farak, actually having questing content against Farak with the big named dragons, I think that would have been really cool. The idea that a lot of our story is holding the line against him, while the raid has us clearing out Aberrus. Because if we just had more screen time with Farak, I think a lot of this would actually land stronger. And this is where I do get a little suspicious. Patch 10.1.7 is called Fury Incarnate. And it doesn't really do much to justify that name. It has a few minutes of Farak in its plot, and not that much else. So I suppose what I'm saying, right? 10.2 does look pretty damn solid. Between its content, how it handles the dream, and between Farak actually being kind of a compelling portrayal. But I do have to wonder, have plans changed? Have plans changed in a way that led to the middle of this expansion being a bit rushed and disjointed? Because that's exactly what I think has kind of happened here. Because it feels like Dragonflight was kind of a strong start, then a very messy middle that perhaps is going to a kind of strong looking end. I don't know. If you're a dev, you can always let me know what's really going on. tips@bellular.games is the email. HOTS. Stick with me. I know this isn't a MOBA show, but seriously, while few of us asked for a, Warcraft and Blizzard IP MOBA, you can't deny that HOTS was a kind of different vision of what a MOBA could be. And its gameplay was seriously goddamn amazing. Illidan. Illidan played so well. It just felt like every character in HOTS was just perfect in design, right? At least insofar as it really felt like you were playing that character from the Blizzard IP. The artists also went so hard with HOTS. Hey, you've got a Mecha Yrel. That's a bit wild. So here's the deal. I love Warcraft. I love StarCraft. I like Diablo, and I know that the 3 weeks of League of Legends degeneracy that me and Matt slipped into a few years ago was actually kind of epic. So that's why my interest is very much being piqued, because after the game was sunset ages ago, we have now had a new public test realm go live for Heroes of the Storm, and the account's first tweet in 1.5 years, which I suppose is to say, hello Phil Spencer, Big Daddy Microsoft man. I don't know how you're going to do this or anything, but I think Heroes of the Storm is just too good to be left half dead. And real talk, its characters are so good, its gameplay is so good, it's trying some new things with its game design. Also, money-wise, HOTS has got some of the best skins in a MOBA, in my opinion. So, hey, that stuff would monetize kind of well, and you could do loads of cross-promotion. Obviously, it's clear to all of us that its past positioning in the market didn't work out, but there seriously is gold there, and that clearly someone at Blizzard is doing something with HOTS. I mean, that certainly is interesting. Okay, patch 10.2, I've got a few topics in that. Number one, Blizzard have confirmed the dates of our new story stuff. It seems like the core of the A-plot, the actual main story campaign, will be there in day one, with the Misfit Dragon questline that I believe unlocks the Netherwing Dragon Riding Mount being on the 14th, and then the fourth chapter of the Reforging Tyr questline dropping on the 21st, and it's what unlocks the white scale color for your dragon riding dragons. Now that last quest with Tyr, gotta say, I think it's actually going to be quite big. So, Tyr is a character who knows a shitload about stuff, right? Like, if there's anything related to Khazalgar or Avalorn that's coming in our next expansion, Tyr is going to be the guy who will actually tell us about that. Plus, that will be dropping after BlizzCon, so Blizzard will, obviously know that, and they'll no doubt feel comfortable having, having whatever Tyr does in that quest line be fairly related to the next expansion, or whatever's coming next. It just makes a hell of a lot of sense. You think about who Tyr is as a character, where yes, he's this sort of Titan dude, but also he did have this love for mortals. He ultimately would sacrifice his life, I suppose, for the dragons, for the mortal cause. He was trying to thwart Loken's whole dealio going on in Ulduar. Tyr's just a real bang-up character also. Tyr is a very foundational character to the humans of Warcraft, also to the Vrykul. Hey, Tirisfal? Tirisfal, it's literally the naming. So he's one of those characters that I think could take this whole... Right, the whole thing where everyone's like, order, this isn't order, and order wants to fight chaos, this color in the chart wants to fight that color in the chart. Can feel like it's sort of stripped of characters. But there's recent things that I've actually quite liked. As an example, the ANR Elune, the various stories and myth of the relationships between gods. So I think that kind of puts character to it. Then you've got characters like Odin, who's a big jackass, and Tyr, who is seemingly, he did some bad things that he might regret, but is a pretty cool stand-up dude. It seems like that is how we actually have these larger, big sort of cosmic-y things actually feel like they're real characters who we care about, right? And we actually find to be interesting. So I'm quite looking forward to the fourth stage of this Tyr quest. The last thing that we did was reform the Tyr's Guard, and the next step is basically to do a heist of Tyr's memory disk, which, if my memory serves, is currently in the past in the Nighthold, which itself is cool because it means Grand Magistrix Elisond, who is a character who, look, just go look at some of Elisond's dialogue lines from Legion. They're all fairly interesting and relevant. I don't know, I just think it's cool stuff. Next then, Battleground Blitz. I am actually hyped for this, even though I am not a PvP player. Seriously, I know if you're a PvE person, you may not care. Please listen, because I think this is worth it. It's now time for us to see what Blizzard's vision for solo queue rated Battlegrounds is. It is a 8v8 with tweaked map mechanics for a more brisk pace. As an example, control points are captured in 30 seconds down from 60. Objective claiming cast times are down from 6 seconds to 4 seconds, and there's a new buff called Swift Pursuit that increases mount speed by 150%, which of course makes sense because this mode is 8-a-side. So this is 8-a-side, but maps are generally designed for slightly more players, then that faster move speed will, make it feel, I suppose, a little bit more reasonable for that number of players. There's also a bunch of new power-ups, and they've also tweaked loads of the maps. As an example, in Eye of the Storm, 2 out of 4 nodes are active at a time, and the points actually generate faster. For Arathi Basin, it's got the 5 nodes, but faster resource acquisition, and a real interesting change where capping a node claims it for 45 seconds. After 45 seconds, it needs to be recapped, which I suppose is, encouraging defending, right? It's encouraging a lot of that team communication. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Warsong Gulch and Twin Peaks have got the flag carrier debuff stack twice as fast, and the maximum game length in them is 12 minutes. Queuing, of course, is cross-faction, and gear, as long as it's above eye level 312, will scale up to item level 472 in PvP, which is 3 item levels below Season 3 Honor gear. So yes, the gear still will make you more powerful, but you're not turbo screwed if you don't already have a full set of Honor gear. And as for rewards, your first win of the day is 100 Conquest, extra wins get you about 50, and losing by a narrow margin gets you 25 Conquest, which I think is a really neat touch. This is also going to come with 2 weekly quests and a bunch of achievements for completing and winning matches. My personal opinion this, right, is that this could be absolutely goddamn massive. I know that Arena kind of kicked off as the competitive PvP main mode, and we have the Arena World Championship and all those things go on, right? Sure, that's fine. But you know what? Sometimes maybe you want to play a really sweaty game of Counter-Strike, or, search and destroy in Call of Duty. Other times, maybe you just want to go into a playlist and shoot up some boys. Because, hey, it's a shooter game, that's what you do in those games. And the reason why I bring that up is because rated BGs, right? Big, serious sort of thing, queue times. You feel like, you've got all this organization to do, so if a match doesn't go well, I imagine people get extra pissed. Whereas in this, it's like, hey, I want to do some PvP. Hit button, queue, go. Just in the same way that Solo Shuffle did that for Arena. But the thing is, I think this type of objective-based mode has a larger total addressable audience than Arena. Because think about Arena, it's sweaty. Arena is turbo sweaty, right? Because, yes, the different arenas do have their own little mechanics and things, but think about it, big picture, it's fighting other people, it's quite stressful, and absolutely, you're going to have to be pretty damn amazing at playing your class to outplay other people. Whereas here, there are other dimensions to one's success or failure, right? How you're playing the objective, how you're communicating as a team, all that stuff. So I think this could really just crack the game mode open, and to be honest with you, Blizzard just kept on adding new battlegrounds to the game. But they didn't change any of the systems, so you're either just, queuing up a bunch of them to get some honor, or maybe being one of the, several people who does RBGs. I really don't think that development, that dev work would make much sense. And I think that's probably why Blizzard haven't been making Battlegrounds much recently. So, I think if this is successful, it could actually crack open a whole new part of the game for people. I would be dead interested in this. Just the way that, somebody could come home from work, hit up the queue, get some conquest, increase their rating over time, get better gear, actually feel accomplished, play some real content. That could be pretty damn strong. And yes, in their blog, Blizz said that this is the big step towards us getting solo queue rated Battlegrounds. I think this is awesome. I'm so happy they're doing this test, and this should be pretty big for the next expansion. Right, to round up the news then, it is currently the last week of Turbulent Time Waste, so it's a good time to level alts if you want to do that. Hallows End also ends next week. Definitely check it out, it's got its new hard mode, which is pretty neat. Blizzard have also nerfed a bunch of Outlier Aberrus trinkets, and they've buffed Mirdrasil ones. There's definitely there may be a bit more tuning needed. For sure, looking at the higher end community, I think they're a bit miffed. As an example, as Jack pointed out, why was Rashok's Molten Heart ever so powerful that now it has to be nerfed by 50% in terms of healing, 70% by mana, and verse by 20%. Yeah, I suppose it's just the old balancing, arms race. The dose makes the poison. It seems that with initial testing, some of Mirdrasil trinkets were just not particularly interesting and were kind of undertuned. That, of course, made an awkward situation as compared to Aberrus. Yeah, bit challenging because, look, you always want to have the next tier have cool, exciting things. But how do you manage that? Because if every tier is kind of, upending the next tier, you're just kind of cracking the balance up and up and up and up. And then for Blizzard, obviously they've just decided to go a little bit YOLO with how powerful some things are. I suppose of them feeling safe that they can, then nerf the hell out of them in the next patch. Yeah, admittedly, it's a pretty awkward situation. And also, just for due diligence, we've got some promos on Prime Gaming. You can get the Armored Bloodwing, and the 12-month subscription bundle thingy is out. So basically, there we have it. It's the calm before the storm. The leaks are really getting all quite crazy. To learn at least the lore, the actual solid lore of what could be coming next, and the newer things Blizzard are kind of casting up in the game setting, check out the video that will replace my face within a few seconds. So, thanks to today's sponsor for paying the bills. Thanks to you for watching, and I'll see you next time.